Our 10th anniversary was supposed to be unforgettable: sunsets in Santorini, wine by the sea, a reservation I had made 6 months ago. But just 24 hours before our flight, my husband looked up from his phone and casually said, "I've got an urgent work thing. We'll go another time." No apology. No emotion. Just dismissal. Something in me cracked, not from heartbreak, but from clarity. I stared at the suitcase I'd already packed and made a decision. I wasn't going to spend our anniversary alone. He canceled the trip. So I invited someone else, and the story didn't unfold the way he expected. The night before our planned anniversary trip, I was lighting candles in the kitchen, setting the table for a quiet dinner. I had just finished folding the clothes for our vacation, organizing our passports, and triple-checking the hotel reservation. I even placed a little surprise in his suitcase, a note I wrote last year when we were going through a rough patch. It said, "We made it. Here's to a decade of trying, growing, and choosing each other." At 8:47 p.m., he came home, dropped his laptop bag near the hallway, and sat on the couch without even saying hello. That alone wasn't too strange. Lately, he'd been more distant, claiming he was tired or stressed from work. But that night, it felt heavier. "So," I began, "we leave tomorrow at noon, remember? Should we set the alarm for early packing or?" He didn't look at me. He just stared at the muted television screen. Then he said, without even glancing over, "Yeah, about that. I can't go." I blinked. "What?" "I've got a meeting with a client, high-stakes stuff. I need to be here." I stood there, stunned. This trip wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't random. It was our 10th wedding anniversary. 10 years. I had made plans, taken time off work, coordinated everything. He didn't even have the decency to look me in the eye when canceling. "You're kidding, right?" "I'm sorry, okay? I'll make it up to you." He said it with all the emotion of someone reading a traffic report. Cold. Detached. Almost bored. And just like that, he got up and walked into the kitchen, scrolling on his phone, opening the fridge, acting like he hadn't just casually thrown away our entire celebration like it was an old receipt. That night, I lay in bed next to a man I no longer recognized. My heart wasn't broken, it was numb. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't even ask questions. Instead, I reached for my phone and texted someone I hadn't spoken to in a while, my childhood friend, Danny. We had grown up together, lost touch during our busy careers, but recently reconnected. She'd been through a rough divorce and was the kind of person who understood things without needing every detail. "Hey. Still want to visit Santorini?" I wrote. Within 2 minutes, she replied, "Wait, are you serious?" I was. The next morning, I woke up early, had coffee alone on the balcony, and listened to the silence in our apartment. He hadn't come to bed until late, and he was already gone by the time I opened my eyes. No note. No apology. No follow-up. I packed my bags and called Danny. "Be ready in 2 hours," I said. "I've got 2 tickets." "He's not coming." At the airport, people must have thought we were celebrating something wonderful. 2 women, laughing over overpriced cappuccinos, dressed in breezy linen and sunglasses. But under that smile, I carried something heavier. I was mourning the version of my marriage that had lived only in my head. By the time we landed in Santorini, I'd made peace with it. The trip that was meant to be a romantic escape had become something far more empowering, a reclaiming of joy, of spontaneity, of self-worth. Danny and I danced on rooftop terraces, we sipped wine by the water, we talked about life like we were 18 again. She listened without judgment, and I spoke freely for the first time in months. Then something happened. Something that changed everything. One night, Danny posted a photo of us. Just a simple shot, two friends at sunset, clinking glasses, the blue domes of Santorini glowing behind us. She captioned it, "Best anniversary trip ever, who needs a man when you've got memories like these?" It wasn't meant to be a dig. It was inside joke humor. But within hours, that photo was shared. And then shared again. Someone recognized me, an old college friend. Then another. Soon, people began piecing the story together. Comments flooded in, "Wait, didn't her husband cancel their anniversary trip, and legend move?" I hadn't intended to go viral. But when I woke up the next day, my inbox was full, and there were messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Most were supportive. Some were curious. One was from someone I didn't expect. My husband. I stared at my phone screen, watching his name flash across the display. 6 missed calls. 3 messages. 1 voice note. It was like he'd suddenly remembered I existed, but only after the world reminded him I did. I ignored the first few. I wasn't ready to hear whatever excuse he'd rehearsed. But curiosity won eventually. The voice note was only 10 seconds long, and his voice was unusually tight. "Hey, call me back. We need to talk. It's important." I didn't. Instead, I sat on the sun-warmed balcony of our Santorini villa, sipping coffee, while Danny scrolled through the avalanche of online comments. "People love you," she said, tilting her phone. "Someone just tweeted, 'She's the queen of soft revenge.' You're a whole vibe now." I chuckled, but there was a storm inside me. Not because of the attention. Not even because of my husband. It was because I realized I hadn't missed him at all. Not once. Not during the late-night walks through cobblestone alleys. Not during the candlelit dinners by the water. Not during the morning sunrises or the ferry rides or the quiet moments of joy I hadn't felt in years. He had erased himself from my life long before this trip. I had just never acknowledged it out loud. When I finally returned his call, it was with an eerie calm. "Hey," I said flatly. "You're all over the internet," he snapped. "Everyone's tagging me. My boss saw the post. Do you even realize how this makes me look?" I blinked. "You're worried about how you look. This isn't fair, okay? You didn't even tell the full story. You made it look like I just bailed on you, Anne." "You did," I interrupted. "You bailed. Like it meant nothing. Like I meant nothing." There was silence. He wasn't used to me standing my ground. He'd always been the one with the louder voice, the sharper tone, the final word. But something had shifted. "I was under pressure," he finally said. "Work's been chaos. I thought you'd understand." "No," I said. "You didn't think at all." After that call, he tried again. Several times. Messages poured in, half apologies wrapped in self-pity. "I miss you. Come home, let's talk." I was an idiot. But none of them acknowledged the deeper betrayal, that I had become invisible to him long before that cancelled flight. And then, the most unexpected thing happened. A podcast host reached out. She ran a series called Modern Love, The Real Stories. She'd seen Danny's photo, connected the dots, and wanted to feature me in an upcoming episode. "I think women would love to hear your perspective," she said. "It's not about shaming men, it's about reclaiming voice." I agreed, nervously. We recorded the interview remotely from a quiet cafe near the cliffs. I told my story, not the viral version, not the filtered caption, but the real one. About how I'd spent years trying to make a marriage work that had stopped working long ago. About how one cancelled trip finally forced me to open my eyes. About the quiet power of choosing joy, even when you have to choose it alone. The episode aired 2 weeks later. By then, I was home. But things didn't go back to normal. They couldn't. He was waiting when I walked into our apartment. He'd cleaned, cooked, lit candles. I almost laughed at the irony. "You look good," he said. "I feel good," I replied, setting my keys down. We sat at opposite ends of the couch, like strangers. "I listened to the podcast," he confessed. "I didn't know you felt that way." "You didn't ask," I said softly. There was a long pause. He rubbed his hands over his knees like he was about to make a case in court. "I made a mistake," he said finally. "I thought I had more time. To fix things. To show up." I looked at him, really looked. At the man I had loved for a decade. And for the first time, I saw the cracks I had been papering over for years. The silent dinners. The emotional distance. The apathy disguised as busyness. "I think you mean it," I said. "But I don't think I can do this anymore." He didn't fight. Maybe he already knew. We separated quietly, without drama. No screaming matches or broken plates. Just two people who had stopped being partners long before they noticed. The viral fame faded, but something else remained, a sense of clarity I had never known. I stopped shrinking myself for someone else's comfort. I began writing again, something I hadn't done since college. I even started posting travel reviews from my trip, and somehow, people actually read them. Danny stayed in touch, cheering me on through every step. "That trip wasn't just a vacation," she told me once. "It was your reset button." She was right. The apartment felt quieter than usual after he left. Not just because there was one less person in it, but because the tension, the eggshells, the constant second-guessing had disappeared. For the first time in years, I could actually breathe in my own home. I donated most of the anniversary gifts he had given me over the years, bracelets I never wore, dresses he picked for me that never felt like me. I kept only a few things, a ceramic coffee mug we bought on our honeymoon, and a photo of us in better days. Not because I missed him, but because I needed to remember the whole picture. Even the parts that hurt. Work became my sanctuary. I poured myself into my projects, rediscovering the confidence I'd once had before my marriage began to dim my light. People at the office noticed. "You seem different," one of my coworkers said. "Like you're finally in your skin." I was. Meanwhile, the podcast episode took off in ways I never expected. It sparked conversations online, threads filled with women sharing their own stories of feeling unseen, unloved, or silenced in relationships. Some thanked me for saying things they were too afraid to admit. Others reached out just to say, "You made me feel less alone." And then came the emails. Editors from women's websites. Interview requests from magazines. Even a small publisher asked if I'd ever considered turning my story into a book. I laughed when I read that email. A book? Me? But the idea lodged itself somewhere deep. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like just someone's wife. I felt like someone with something to say. Danny, ever the cheerleader, was ecstatic. "I told you the universe had your back," she grinned. "Look at you. Main character energy." We met up every weekend, sometimes at her place, other times at local cafes. She helped me brainstorm book titles, outline chapters, and even proofread some of my writing. But mostly, she reminded me what real friendship felt like: supportive, honest, and never conditional. One evening, as we sat watching the city lights from her rooftop, she asked, "Do you miss him?" I paused, thinking about it. Not about the man he was when we first met, but the version I'd spent years trying to fix. "I miss who I hoped he'd be," I said honestly. "But not who he actually was." She nodded. "That's grief. Not for the person, but for the idea." A few weeks later, he texted. Just a simple message. I listened again. "I'm sorry. For all of it." This time, I didn't ignore it. I replied, "Thank you. I hope you find peace, too." No anger. No bitterness. Just closure. It was freeing, this new phase of my life. I wasn't chasing anyone's validation. I wasn't trying to prove my worth to someone who had already made up his mind. I was simply living on my terms. As months passed, my book slowly took shape. It wasn't a scathing tell-all or a revenge memoir. It was about reclaiming your voice after years of being silenced. About rediscovering joy in the aftermath of disappointment. About realizing that one canceled trip could reroute your entire life. The working title? The Trip I Took Anyway. I smiled every time I typed it. Then came a message that surprised me most. It was from a woman named Angela, my ex-husband's new coworker. She'd heard my podcast episode, read the social posts, and realized she worked with him. But she wasn't writing to gossip. "I just wanted to say thank you," her message read. "You helped me walk away from a relationship that mirrored yours in too many ways. I'm finally choosing myself." That message hit me in a way none of the others had. Because for every view, like, or share, what truly mattered was that someone saw their own worth through my experience. I wasn't just healing, I was helping others heal. By the 1-year anniversary of that infamous trip, I was no longer just a woman who got left behind. I was an author, a speaker, a sister, a friend, and, for the first time in ages, deeply content. I celebrated the milestone with Danny in Positano, a place we both had dreamed of. The views were breathtaking, but it was the laughter that made it unforgettable. We clinked glasses under a pink-orange sky, the ocean humming below. "To choosing ourselves," Danny said. "To never waiting for permission to live," I added. And we toasted to everything we had lost, and everything we had found in its place. A year ago, I thought my marriage defined me. I thought anniversaries were proof of love, and that canceling one trip, even last minute, was just a small disappointment. But I now understand it was never about the trip. It was about the pattern. The neglect, the excuses, the dismissals that slowly eroded who I was. That one canceled vacation forced me to face a truth I had avoided for too long. I had been waiting on someone who was never really there. And when I stopped waiting, life began to happen. I discovered the power of saying yes to myself, for once. Saying yes to the trip. Yes to new experiences. Yes to friendships that nourished me, not drained me. Yes to telling the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. Yes to being seen, heard, and celebrated for who I really was. What started as pain transformed into purpose. The viral story, the support from strangers, the quiet strength I built inside me, it all became part of something bigger. I wasn't the victim of a failed marriage. I was the author of a powerful reinvention. I didn't just take someone else on that trip. I took myself on a journey I never expected. And when I look back, I'm not angry anymore. I'm grateful. Because if he hadn't canceled that trip, I might never have left the life that was quietly suffocating me. I might never have found the woman I was always meant to be. So here's what I know now. Sometimes, the real anniversary worth celebrating is the one where you come back home to yourself.